She came only to watch her son receive his trident. But something in the crowd caught the eye of the Navy SEAL commander, and for a moment, the ceremony itself seemed to stumble. The bleachers at the Trident Bay training ground in Virginia were packed to capacity. People sat shoulder to shoulder, families waved flags, cameras clicked, and the morning sun gleamed on rows of flawlessly pressed dress uniforms. And yet, in the third row sat a woman who could almost go unnoticed in the crowd. Claire Donovan, 50 years old, in a simple blue dress and cardigan, looked like any other proud mother holding back tears. Her son, Ryan Donovan, was about to take his place among the Navy's elite. What no one, not even Ryan, guessed was that his mother once wore the trident too, in a way few could imagine. For almost decades, she had hidden the truth beneath rolled-down sleeves and quiet modesty. But that morning, the past was waiting for her, woven into the very fabric of the ceremony. You are watching invisible stories, hidden heroes, untold missions. Write your city in the comments and subscribe to find out more. The field where the graduation took place trembled with anticipation. 19 men, the last survivors from an initial class of over 150, stood in perfect formation. The culmination of months of torment, of trials designed to break all but the strongest. Ryan was among them, chest out, jaw clenched, nerves hidden behind discipline. To the crowd, he looked like any other newly minted SEAL. To Claire, he was still the boy she raised alone after his father, Captain Daniel Donovan, didn't return from Afghanistan. Her hands gripped a small flag so tightly the fabric trembled. She had worked endless double shifts as a trauma nurse, always hiding the part of herself that was forged in fire. 5 deployments as a combat medic attached to Navy SEAL teams in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Horn of Africa. The woman Ryan knew as Mom was once Doc Donovan, a name spoken with reverence in special ops circles. But Ryan was never told this. She wanted him to find his own path, unchained by her reputation. When the brass band fell silent, Commander Ethan Marshall, a legend in his own right, stepped up to the podium. He swept a sharp gaze over the graduates. A heavy pride resonated in his voice. His words carried the message of sacrifice, brotherhood, and the Navy SEAL combat code. Claire tried to dissolve into those words, but memories came flooding back. The dust of Fallujah, the metallic smell of blood, the desperate radio calls for a medevac. She blinked them away and focused on Ryan's broad shoulders and his steady stance. And then, when Ryan's name was called, Claire raised a trembling hand to wipe away a tear. Her sleeve slipped down just a bit, revealing the barely visible edge of old ink, a fragment of an emblem, a whisper of numbers. At the podium, Commander Marshall's eyes narrowed. His speech stumbled. His jaw tightened. He saw something that didn't belong at a normal graduation ceremony, but he stayed silent. Claire Donovan had sat through countless similar ceremonies, but never as a mother. She knew what her son had been through, months of trials designed to break every candidate until only 19 remained. Ryan had made it through everything. Pride expanded in her chest, but fear crowded right beside it. She herself had walked this road, attached as a combat medic to Navy SEAL teams in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Horn of Africa. She knew what awaited him beyond the pressed uniforms and polished speeches, the chaos, the silence cut by gunshots, and the choices that brand the soul forever. On stage, Commander Ethan Marshall spoke in the rhythm of a man who had lived every word. Sacrifice, brotherhood, the relentless standard of the trident. The grip on the flag in Claire's hand tightened. She had heard those same words years ago, not from a podium, but in the mud, through radio static. And once again, Marshall's voice faltered. His gaze swept over the crowd and stopped on her. It sharpened and lingered. Claire's stomach churned. For almost a decade, She had just been Nurse Donovan in Norfolk, and carefully lowered sleeves hid the ink etched into her skin. That tattoo was no decoration. It was her essence. When Ryan's name rolled over the loudspeakers, Claire raised her hand to wipe a tear. The sleeve crept up just enough for a sunbeam to catch the black ink. Marshall froze, his jaw clenched, recognition slashing across his features. He knew that mark, had seen it in a place one never forgets. The microphone crackled in the sudden silence. Papers were set aside. Marshall stepped down from the podium. Bewilderment rippled through the bleachers. Claire's pulse pounded in her ears. After years of anonymity, her past was walking toward her with a steady stride. He stopped in front of her. "Ma'am," he said quietly but firmly, "please stand up." All eyes turned to them. Claire hesitated. To stand meant to reveal herself. To stand meant to tear down the wall between who she was and who her son thought she was. But there was no choice. Slowly, she stood. Her cardigan slipped off. The tattoo was fully revealed. Marshall's face shifted from hardness to awe. His voice thundered over the field. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome retired United States Navy Hospital Corpsman, First Class Claire Donovan." Doc Donovan. The name rippled through the crowd like ripples on water. Whispers gave way to a stunned silence. A figure spoken of almost purely in legend within SEAL circles was suddenly standing among them, hidden until this minute behind the dress of an ordinary mother. Ryan's composure cracked. His jaw tightened, his gaze drilling into his mother as if she were a stranger. He had never heard that name before. The graduation ceased to be just a ceremony. It was transforming into something else, something much more significant. Commander Ethan Marshall turned back to the audience. His voice grew stronger, resonating with memory. "To you, she is a quiet guest this morning. But to me, she is the medic who refused to let us die." The rows of families leaned forward. The young SEALs straightened up, instinctively bracing for the weight of the revelation. Marshall's gaze dropped for a moment, then rose. "Fallujah, Route Phoenix, 2007. Our convoy was blown apart by an IED. We were pinned down in the open. Machine guns were hammering us from the rooftops. 11 of our men were bleeding out. I thought, this is it." But one medic, Claire Donovan, walked through the fire for 5 hours straight, wounded herself, packing wounds, hanging IVs, performing surgeries right in the dirt, calling in a medevac under fire. None of us were supposed to live. We survived because she refused to break. Gasps rolled through the crowd. Ryan's heart swelled, every word rewriting his understanding of the woman who raised him. Marshall's voice trembled with conviction. "Son, your mother isn't just a nurse. She is the reason men like me are alive and standing here today." Ryan's breath caught. He searched her face for an answer, pleading for an explanation. Claire stood straight, though her eyes reflected the quiet weight of sudden exposure. She had hidden it not out of shame. But so, Ryan's choices would remain his own, not shadows of her legacy. Marshall raised a hand, quieting the whispers. Doc Donovan set the standard for field medicine. She ran into the fire when others crawled back. She didn't just save lives, she showed us what courage looks like. He turned to the graduates. His voice echoed across the hushed parade ground. "Look at her. That is the warrior you pray is beside you when everything goes wrong." And today, her son joins your brotherhood. The crowd finally erupted in applause, but Ryan's chest tightened. Everything he thought he knew about his mother had fallen apart in front of hundreds of people. Marshall lowered his voice and spoke directly to her. "Doc, do you remember me?" Claire's lips parted, her gaze softening with the memory. Slowly, she nodded. The face of a young lieutenant in Fallujah flashed before her, bleeding out, barely conscious, kept alive by her trembling hands until the evacuation. She remembered. The commander stood tall. His voice soared over the field once more. Graduates, families, before you is not a regular guest. Before you is a legend. And her story is not over. The weight of his words hung over the gathering. Ryan's pulse hammered in his ears. If the world now knew who his mother really was, what else would be revealed? The ceremony had already turned into history. Commander Ethan Marshall returned to the podium. His voice was steady, yet filled with reverence. Today, we honor not only 19 new Navy SEALs, but also the brotherhood that raised them, the warriors, the medics, the families who have taken on the burden of sacrifice. Today, we remember that the trident is not just a badge, it is a promise. His gaze remained fixed on Claire Donovan. "Doc, come up here with me." She hesitated. Her whole life, she had avoided the spotlight, preferring the shadows where the work matters, not the recognition. But there was no room for retreat in Marshall's tone. Slowly, she stood and walked forward. Her simple dress was a quiet contrast to the rows of sharp uniforms. Her figure was small, but her presence shifted the air. The silence thickened. The reverence became palpable. Marshall took out his phone. His voice became solemn. "I want you to hear words written into the annals of our country." He read Claire Donovan's citation for the Navy Cross, a testament not to medals, but to unyielding resolve. A convoy torn apart by an ide, a hurricane of fire, shrapnel in her side, and 11 men she refused to let die. For 5 relentless hours, she sutured, packed, evacuated, and commanded, bleeding herself, but never breaking. Every single one survived. By the end, the field was frozen. No applause, no movement, just the sheer weight of those words settling on everyone. Ryan's throat tightened. His mother was no longer just the woman who raised him. She was a name etched into the history of the Navy SEALs. Marshall turned and handed her the microphone. Claire took it, just as firmly and without hesitation as she had once taken a field radio. "Gentlemen," she said in a clear voice, "you have made it through the toughest training in the world. But Bud S is not the end, it is the beginning. Being a Navy SEAL is not about the miles you've run or the weights you've lifted. It's about the man next to you, about choosing what is right over what is easy, and about never leaving your own behind." The 19 graduates leaned in. This was not theory. This was spoken by someone who had lived everything she said, who had paid for it in blood. She turned to her son, "Ryan, I am proud of you. Your father would be proud too. But remember, you wear the trident not for yourself, but for every teammate, for every family praying for the return of their warrior. That is both the burden and the honor." The crowd erupted in applause, and Claire quietly returned to her seat. She didn't need the spotlight, only the relief of knowing her son had earned his place. The ceremony concluded, but for Ryan, one truth burned brighter than the midday sun. His mother was not just mom, she was Doc Donovan. And her story was only beginning to unfold. When the graduates were released to their families, Ryan immediately went to her. His face was pale, his jaw clenched. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" Claire smiled gently. "Because this had to be your decision. I didn't want you chasing my reputation. I wanted you to follow your own calling. But you're a legend. Commander Marshall said you saved his life. I was doing my job, Ryan, the same job you will do now. It's not about the medals, it's about the person next to you. You'll understand that very soon." He swallowed hard. "How many lives did you save?" "I never counted," she replied quietly. "That's not why we serve." Marshall walked over, his composure cracking slightly. "Doc, not a month goes by that I don't think of Fallujah. You didn't just save lives, you showed us what courage looks like." Claire answered softly, "You would have done the same." Marshall shook his head. "Maybe, but you were the one who did it." His gaze shifted to Ryan. "Son, you want to know what a Navy SEAL should be? Look at your mother." Another voice joined them. Chief Petty Officer Robert Chin, an Iraq veteran. He shook Claire's hand firmly. "Doc, your protocols, your medevac drills, we still teach them today. You didn't just save lives, you changed how we save them." Ryan's awe deepened. His mother wasn't just a medic, she was a legacy builder. As the sun dipped towards sunset, Ryan asked a question heavy on his heart. "Are you worried about me? About what's ahead?" Her gaze warmed. "Of course I worry. You're my son. But I'm also proud. You chose a life with meaning. That doesn't make the risk any smaller, but it makes it matter. Your father died with honor. If fate calls you the same way, you'll stand for those same principles." "It's not easy, Ryan, but it's everything." He hugged her, finally truly understanding the burden she had carried in silence all these years. 6 months later, Ryan deployed with Task Force Viper, carrying into battle his father's sacrifice and his mother's courage. Meanwhile, Claire worked in the Norfolk Trauma Unit, mentored young corpsmen, and talked with new medics, effectively never leaving the fight. Her tattoo, once hidden, became a bridge, a history etched into skin, reminding every special ops fighter and every patient. Heroes often hide in plain sight, because courage is not about uniforms or medals. It is about the willingness to risk everything so that someone else survives. Claire Donovan proved this on the battlefield and proves it every day in medical scrubs instead of camouflage. So the story ends where it began. A mother sits quietly, unnoticed, until the world remembers who she is once again. Invisible stories, because some battles and some heroes should never remain in the shadows. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story. M.